It's July 14th, 2018, and I'm making this video to talk about something that pertains to Katelyn Nicole Davis that I think needs discussing, and that is something called contagion theory. Now, I first heard the word contagion used for Katelyn by a medical professional. It was a psychologist, actually, who was being audio interviewed by the YouTube person Celeste Who Knows. This was several months ago. I remember that this interview was done. Celeste had called this psychologist and had asked him if it was possible in some way to use Katelyn's story to promote suicide prevention and suicide awareness. Now, I listened to this entire interview, and I recall the psychologist, he didn't actually give any advice for doing this. He seemed suspicious of the entire thing, and at one point he referred to Katelyn actually as a contagion. In other words, Katelyn is so bad and such a pariah that she should be forgotten, and her whole story actually swept under the rug, and no one should ever hear about it or learn about it ever again. Well, I think his view is it's outmoded, it's antiquated, it's something that needs to be thrown into the dustbin of history, and I'll get into some reasons for that. First reason why I think you wouldn't want to look at Katelyn as a contagion is because her live stream record, it now shows some actual causes of suicide for one particular person, and I'm sure that those causes pertain to many people who are considering suicide. In Katelyn's case, her suicide was primarily caused by sexual molestation from that stepfather in the narrow confines of that nasty trailer that she was living in. And that's an obvious conclusion to draw if you look at all of her live streams. It's in her own words. She talks about it herself. But I think you can go one level deeper to figure out what killed Katelyn. And this was her inability to see how the sexual molestation was eroding her self-esteem to the point where she would destroy herself. And the reason I can see that she doesn't understand the erosion to her self-esteem is the solutions that she gives her viewers for getting out of her problems. She tells her viewers that, hey, look at me. I'm helping myself. I'm taking Prozac. I'm getting better. So in her mind, the solution for getting out of her dilemma was to take more Prozac. When in fact, I think the solution to her dilemma would have been to remove the molester from her life in such a way that she knew that he could never come back into it. Of course, we all know this was something that she was never given. That molester did come back into the trailer on that Christmas Day of 2016, and she was dead 5 days later, which to me is no coincidence. But to get back to my point, a person now with this video live stream record that she created could look at that and perhaps begin to understand the level, the depth, the destruction that sexual molestation can cause on them. And only her live streams can convey that. Now, second reason why you would not want to look at Katelyn as a contagion, as that psychologist did, is because I think that her live streams actually have the potential to increase and not decrease the sense of self-worth of suicidal children. And the reason for this is when you look at the live streams, Katelyn comes across as very compassionate, very articulate, artistic. In every way, she is a valuable and a worthwhile person. But unfortunately, she couldn't see that in herself. And because she couldn't see it in herself, she had no sense of self-worth and consequently took the path of suicide. Now, a person from the outside looking at those live streams, if they're properly formatted, Okay, and I think they should actually be given to children, especially the early live streams. Those children might make the connection between themselves and her and realize that, hey, they too have value, that they too have worth, just as Katelyn had worth. But only through the use of those live streams could that be done. Now, a third reason why you wouldn't want to look at Katelyn as a contagion is from a social justice level, and that is because if the medical professionals, such as that psychologist, view Katelyn as a contagion, then how is everybody else in society going to view them? The police, the judges, the legislators. They're just going to follow the lead of the medical professionals, and they will simply see them as pariahs and forget about their stories. One of the consequences of that is that family members who were responsible for the suicide go unpunished because their stories got, of course, swept under the rug. So to recap this contagion theory, I think it's something that needs to go the way of the dinosaur. It needs to be replaced with something better, and the psychological community needs to do that. I'd like to end this video with a special note of thanks to the YouTube creator, Celeste Who Knows, because she conducted that interview with that psychologist on behalf of suicidal children everywhere.